In this video, we're going to look at 4 really tasty block chord ideas and 1 really impressive progression that moves down in minor seconds, and you can use both of these ideas, the 4 block chords and the progressions, in your next jazz piano reharmonization. It'll apply to almost any tune that you can think of. So it's really, really useful. We're going to be working on the tune, The Shadow of Your Smile. I'm going to post a link to the sheet music a little bit later. Let's dive in and get started with our first block chord idea by listening to the grand piano. This is something I recorded a little bit earlier. Did you hear that? If you missed it, it was right off the top of the tune. Let's listen to it one more time. Here's the block chord idea. All right, let's take a look at the sheet music and let's figure this out together. So basically, it is right off the very beginning, bar number 1. It's actually the pickup measure. And we're going to focus on this chord right here. And these are called drop 2 block chord voicings. If you take an E minor chord, E minor 7, and you move up to the second inversion. So this is the first inversion, and this is the second inversion. All we're doing is taking the bottom note, moving it to the top. We get this second inversion. And then when you get that, you take the second note from the top, which is the E natural, and you move it down to the bass. So you have a 4-note chord played with both hands, the top 3 notes with the right hand and the lowest note with the left hand. And that's the chord that you see that I've pointed out on the sheet music. The best way to practice block chords with drop 2 voicings is to just go up the scale. Of course, that scale is a simple E minor scale in the key of G. There's 1 accidental. Now, where do these other block chords come from? Because they don't sound like what we just played. This is the scale, remember. If you keep going down the scale, you'd think that the first chord would be this. And it is, except we're making an alteration. So the first chord is a second inversion, drop 2 voicing, except we're going to alter the bass note by a half step. We're going to move it up a half step to make this chord. Now, the reason why we do that is because you can go a half step in either direction with the bass note to see what kind of chord you get. In this case, you're going to get a D flat, minor 7 flat 5. Now, if you went down a half step, you'd get this chord, which is an E minor over B chord, but it doesn't sound nearly as nice as this, especially when you resolve it. So let's go up. This would normally be the next note in the scale, but we're going to alter that one as well. And then we're going to resolve it at our E minor chord. And it just makes a really nice sound. I often get asked, how do you choose which bass note to use? And the answer is whatever sounds best to your ears in that specific block chord progression. Okay, let's go back and listen to the recording again, and let's see the next one. So there's our next one right there. Let's go back and listen to it again. What a lovely sound that one makes. Let's take a look at it on the sheet music and discuss how it works. So what we're doing is looking at the last bar in the first line, from here to here. These are drop 2 voicings using what we call the 6th diminished scale. Now, the 6th diminished scale is something that I talk a lot about in my tutorials. I'm going to put a link to a full description of the 6th diminished scale up here in the corner. It's a video you might want to check out after this one is done. But essentially what it means is every other note in the scale is a diminished chord. Take a look at the first chord. That's a drop 2 voicing of a C major 6th chord. We're just taking the second note from the top and moving it down. But instead of following the scale this time, which would be this, we're going to use every other note and make it a diminished chord. So from here to this diminished chord, to here, to this diminished chord. Interesting, this diminished chord and this one are the same chord. They're just different inversions. So the chords in sequence are basically A minor, A flat diminished, C major 6th over G, and then F diminished. And that makes a really nice progression. So try to use the 6th diminished scale idea for block chords whenever possible, and make sure that you're using drop 2 voicings. It will work for other types of voicings, but it works really well with drop 2. Let's go back and listen to the recording again, and we'll get to our next progression, which will be number 3. So there was the next one right there. Let's listen to it again. Right there. So that's different in the fact that it's not a two-handed block chord idea. So we're discussing this block chord progression, which is just the right hand. And all that is root position triads with a chord in the bass. So it doesn't always have to be two-handed drop 2 voicings. In this particular case, like I said, it's root position chords just following the scale. Okay, if you want to practice that, just go up the E minor scale. Now it's a good idea to use different fingerings for each of those. Start on 1, 3, and 5, then go to 1, 2, and 4, and then go to 1, 2, and 4 again, and then 1, 2, and 3. And use the pedal because it makes it more legato. Okay, there's our third block chord voicing. Let's go back and listen to the music. Remember, that was the first one we did, and it's on the repeat now. Okay, there's the next one right there. Let's listen to that again. Now this one is easier in terms of its process than the other ones that came before it. But it's a really cool sound. And what it is if you look at the E7 flat 9 chord, where you've got this diminished chord on top, or A flat diminished, we're taking that diminished chord and we're moving it into different inversions based on the melody line. And we're using A flat diminished because, again, it's part of the E7 flat 9 chord. So the diminished chord in the bottom is this, and melody note on top. So we're switching the diminished chord. Now the second one, instead of playing B diminished, we're going to change the bottom note to C. Why? Creates more dissonance. Okay, one more time. It's a good idea to start thinking about these diminished chords in terms of dominant 7 flat 9. So if this is, again, E7 flat 9, if you look at that, as long as you're covering the basis of the diminished chord, you can put different notes over top of that. What we're doing there is we're just surrounding the chord with octaves. Okay? And they make nice progressions. Let's listen to the last idea, which is not a block chord idea, and I'll tell you when it starts. Right here. Listen to the bass line, it's going down by half steps. All right, that sounded really great. Let's analyze it. So we're starting on the A minor 7th chord right here, and we're going all the way through to down here. What I want you to pay attention to is the bass line. A to A flat or G sharp, G, F sharp, F, E, E flat, and then if you scroll down, it would go to a D. So what we're doing is basically dropping the bass line by half steps, but following the chord progression. Now, it works really well in this situation, but it doesn't always have to be this chord progression in order to utilize that idea. But it does work here. So from A minor 7, bass line dropping by half step. And I'll need to scroll down a little bit so you can see that last one. So from bar number 30, the D sus chord. It's such a great sound when you can move the bass down in half steps like that. You have to modify the chords a little bit, and you'll notice that I've done that in the alternate notation that I've put up here at the top. So you can see it, it's in brackets. So the original chord would be F13, but we've changed it to an F sharp diminished chord. The original chord was a B minor 7, but we've changed it to an F7 sharp 11. So basically what you have to do is modify the chord in order to make it work. Okay, there are 4 block chord ideas and 1 descending bass line in half steps. Those are ideas that you can use on any reharmonization of pretty much any tune. Of course, you have to figure out where they fit. This is not improvisation ideas. This is reharmonization ideas, meaning you should work the chords out ahead of time when you're working through any of the jazz standards or any of your original tunes. I hope you got a lot out of that. Let me hear what you think about these progressions in the comments below. And if you want to ask a question, you can do that there as well. Let me put a link to this sheet music, which is Shadow of Your Smile, reharmonized using these ideas. I'm going to put a link to that sheet music up here in the corner. And if you'd like to reach down, give the video a thumbs up, that would really help us here at the channel. And if you want to subscribe, we'd love to have you. If you're looking for more ideas on how to reharmonize tune, let me put a link to another video right here.